for my ally is the Force.
After reading through the comments of the last video, I don't think everyone understood the point I was trying to make about Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi. I want to make sure that everyone understands that it's almost impossible to write a sequel to The Force Awakens. I'm not making excuses for Rian Johnson, and I'm not saying that The Last Jedi was a good movie either. What I am saying is, if you take a step back and examine The Force Awakens, you'll see that there was no possible way to explain any of the mysteries set up in the movie because there was never a story being told, and the plot is written in a way that makes it almost impossible to explain in a sequel. So even if J.J. Abrams wrote and directed The Last Jedi, it still would have been a bad movie. The Force Awakens was 90% nostalgia and 10% original story, and for a while that kept us happy, but Rian Johnson was put in a weird position. Either continue to feed us nostalgia and reboot Empire, or take the story in a new direction. Both of these are nearly impossible to do because The Force Awakens isn't the same story as A New Hope, so you can't just reboot Empire as a sequel. The Force Awakens is so flawed that all the plots lead to dead ends, so how can you continue a story with those characters? If there's no logical reason why the First Order would be in power, why Luke ran away, or why Finn is the only stormtrooper that wants to escape, how can you continue those stories? Everyone blames The Last Jedi because it opened the idea that something might be wrong with these new movies. Everyone wanted new Star Wars, so we overlooked the obvious flaws in The Force Awakens. We felt like, as long as they were trying to give us new Star Wars, everything was okay, right? But one of the biggest mistakes they made right away was making it in Episode 7, and having the original characters in it so much. It should have been set 50 or more years in the future where all the classic characters were gone. You could have Luke as a Force ghost, or maybe an old man Chewbacca, but it should have been a new story. The original story was complete. I've always thought that Episodes 1 through 6 were about Anakin. They started with how he became a Jedi, the events that shaped his life, his mentors and enemies, falling in love, becoming a father, falling to the dark side, taking over the galaxy, destroying the Empire, and finally being redeemed by his son. Anakin is a main character in every movie because they're all about him, not the Skywalker family. There is no Skywalker story before Anakin, and there's nothing left to the story after his death. So when they make it in Episode 7, it immediately tells me they have no idea what they're doing with this franchise. Just make it The Force Awakens Episode 1. It's the first episode in a new story, and it's not about Anakin, Luke, or Sidious anymore. It doesn't even have to have a Skywalker in it. And that would give them more freedom to do different things without being limited by the previous movies. That way, new things can be introduced without stepping on the already established lore and characters. This scene pretty much sums up everything wrong with the writing in this movie, and it proves that there was no plan for this trilogy. This is right after Han dies. Leia sees one of her oldest friends, someone she's known for over 30 years, someone who helped save the galaxy and destroy the Empire. Han was really important to Leia and Chewbacca. Of course they're gonna cry in each other's arms, right? Or she can just walk right past him to hug Rey. Leia walked right past Chewie so she could hug Rey.
Why?
JJ didn't have a reason for this. He just wanted these characters to interact. But there's no reason for Leia to hug Rey like this, unless she knows who Rey is already. If she was Luke's daughter or someone that she knew, she would have said something, right? Somebody would have said something. But no one did, so why the hell does she ignore Chewie to hug a complete stranger like this? JJ probably intended for her to be Luke's daughter. It's a logical path for the next director to take, but this interaction ruins that as an option. If we found out that Rey was Luke's daughter in The Last Jedi, we'd ask if Leia knew during this hug. We'd ask why Leia didn't tell her niece who she was if she did know, or why she hugged a complete stranger if she didn't know. And then we'd have to explain why she was left on Jakku with Unkar Plutt and not somewhere safe. Leia is rich, right? I would guess that there's lots of nice places that Rey could have been left if she was part of the Skywalker family. The next movie would have to explain why she was abandoned by Luke, and that would not only make Luke a coward that ran away from Snoke, but a deadbeat who abandoned his daughter. But that can't be. Luke trained KYLO less than 20 years ago. He had a Jedi Academy less than 20 years ago. So he wouldn't have abandoned his daughter and went back to train at his academy the next day. So she can't be Luke or Leia's family, because we'd have to explain like 4 other things just to make that idea work. And Rian Johnson can't say she was left there to hide from Snoke because Snoke has no idea who she is when KYLO first mentions her.
If what you say about this girl is true,
See, this is another dead end that ruins that idea as an option for the next movie. How was Rian Johnson going to explain who Rey was? She had to be nobody, because JJ put things in The Force Awakens that eliminated many possible relationships as an option. Rian Johnson was very limited in what he could do, so he just decided to burn it all down. JJ actually laid the foundation for Rey to be a mechanical engineering genius. Almost every scene we see her in, she's fixing or working on some machine. First time we see her, she's removing this part. First time she meets BB-8, she fixes his antenna. She fixes the Falcon, she fixes the hyperdrive, she even figures out how to close the doors to save Finn. We spend a decent amount of time establishing that Rey is good with machines, and that skill never seems to play an important role in the movie. Instead of her Jedi mind tricking, she could have picked the lock. Maybe she destroyed Starkiller Base because she rerouted a power source, or she removed some crucial mechanical part. Or she could have adjusted some part of the lightsaber that made the blade more intense, and that's why she beat KYLO, because of her expertise with technology and machines. That way, she could spend the second movie learning to become a Jedi. So KYLO would still be stronger and a better fighter, but Rey just outsmarted him. But that's what a writer who was writing a trilogy would do. It seems like they were establishing Rey as some mechanical genius, but halfway through the movie they just said, fuck it, just make her a Jedi already. So when I say that Rian Johnson was backed into a corner with The Last Jedi, this is what I'm talking about. Not only was there no solid plan for these movies, but JJ killed the trilogy with his dead-end plot lines before the sequel was even made. They spend the whole movie looking for the map to Luke, and in the end, they don't need it to blow up Starkiller Base, so why was it important? It was basically the main goal for most of the characters. Luke doesn't seem to be worried about stopping the First Order, so why does Snoke want to find him? If the Resistance had the map to Luke the whole time, why are they waiting until now to look for him? And why wouldn't Luke leave the map with Leia? Why wouldn't he tell her where he was going? JJ thought if he just changed the details we wouldn't notice. He couldn't have him looking for Death Star plans again, so he had everyone searching for a pointless map. Kylo Ren is the best part about these movies, but how can we take him seriously when he looks like this underneath his mask? It's a really bad filmmaking decision to take off his mask. When his mask is on, he's mysterious and intimidating. But when it's off, he looks like
It's a child in a mask.
It would be different if he looked like Darth Maul. How is Kylo supposed to be intimidating here? Imagine Vader taking off his mask in A New Hope and he looked like Hayden Christensen, and then he kept the mask off for the rest of the movie. Real intimidating, right? Why would a director think that was a good decision? And how does the next director make this character intimidating again? This is basic filmmaking. The villains have to look like villains. You couldn't even imagine Darth Maul as a Jedi. You can't have your main villain look and sound like this. When Finn and Rey first meet, BB-8 recognizes Poe's jacket and, without a second thought, Rey immediately chases Finn down. There's no reason why Rey should be doing this. There's no reason for this to be happening, other than a lazy way to get these two to be friends. I mean, there's so many other natural ways you can get these two to be friends. Just have Finn help Rey when she's fighting these two guys. And if Finn would have admitted that he stole the jacket, what was Rey gonna do? Why is she so passionate about this jacket? The Empire took over the galaxy politically and militarily, so it makes sense why a small rebel faction was formed in secret. The Empire was the organization in charge. They had stormtroopers stationed all over the galaxy, and they were in complete control over every planet in the system. But Snoke and the First Order aren't in control of anything. They're basically alien invaders, going against every planet and military in the Republic. And what is the Resistance resisting? Aren't they the ones with the power, the resources, the allies, the numbers, and the superior military? What does Snoke want? Has he asked for anything that can be resisted? There's no reason why everyone wouldn't immediately join up to fight Snoke. It should be especially easy to do now because they just beat an identical enemy 25 years ago, with only a small rebel group. And the Resistance was the Resistance before Snoke blew up the Republic planets. Why wasn't their military already fighting the First Order? Snoke also has the Knights of Ren, but only uses KYLO for some reason. If finding Luke or destroying the Resistance is that important, sending the Knights of Ren to do this would probably work better than a bunch of stormtroopers. The Knights of Ren are another thing that were thrown into this movie and left for someone else to explain. JJ shows us the Knights of Ren. Snoke mentions the Knights of Ren too. He's close to destroying the Resistance and finding Luke, so why isn't he sending out his best soldiers to finish the job? What could the Knights of Ren be doing that's more important than this? The first time we meet Finn, he's just another nameless stormtrooper, but the foundation for a complex and interesting character was laid here. When Finn took off his mask, he became more than just a disposable bottom-level soldier. He became an actual person. But we never get to explore his motivations. I don't understand why he's different than all the other soldiers. If all these soldiers were stolen as kids, it's never explained why he's so determined to run away. Sure, he was being asked to kill people, but all soldiers are asked to kill people. Why is a 24-year-old stormtrooper only being sent on his first mission when he's been with the First Order since he was like 5 years old? See, the biggest problem with Finn as a character is similar to the problem we have with Kylo Ren. Removing a character's mask humanizes them. But if you humanize one stormtrooper, you do it to all of them. So now the stormtroopers aren't an evil army, they're all kidnapped, brainwashed kids being ruled by an evil dictator. JJ spends a lot of time trying to convince us that Finn's a coward. He's constantly saying that he's afraid of the First Order, even though we never see stormtroopers being punished or treated badly. He refuses to kill villagers, but he has no problem killing the very people he grew up with. People who were kidnapped and brainwashed just like him. So why is he so happy to be killing other stormtroopers? Plus, his entire escape plan goes against him being a coward. He's so afraid that he helps a person that's supposed to be his enemy. If he wanted to escape the First Order, he was just on a planet an hour ago. It was pretty chaotic and he probably could have just slipped away into the night without being seen. He could have easily escaped. So instead of just running away on a planet you were just on, you think that kidnapping one of the leaders of the Resistance and stealing a TIE fighter from a busy hangar is a better plan. Running away would actually fit his character better, not this adventurous escape plan. It would have made more sense for Finn to be a new recruit that's only been with the First Order for a short time, and he feels like he's made a mistake by joining, so he's trying to find a way to escape. But there aren't any real characters in this movie. They're just two-dimensional archetypes that don't have any character arcs or development. Every character is in the exact same place at the end of the movie that they were in the beginning. There isn't a story being told in this movie. This movie is just scenes that happen. These characters have no backstory and never have any motivation for doing the things they do. I can point out the flaws in The Force Awakens all day, but I tried to keep this limited to things that JJ wrote that would make writing a sequel very difficult. I would love to hear a synopsis of what you would have written for The Last Jedi. How would you have explained any of these things in the next movie?